What's going on, everyone? It's Nick, and first off, I just want to say congratulations to the Atlanta Braves on winning the World Series for the first time since 1995. They last won the World Series when I was 2 years old. So thank you so much for beating the team we all despise, the Houston Astros. While no, I won't be popping bottles over the Astros losing, I'm not about to make a giraffe neck mark Astros rendition of his Yankees lose videos. He actually didn't do that this year, but I'm not one who celebrates any team losing like my team won a championship. But I am really happy that the Astros lost the World Series. And I think most people are too. But I'm not even really here to talk about how poorly they hit during the World Series and how the Braves pitchers absolutely dominated them. I want to talk about Jorge Soler, the World Series MVP, but before I go any further with that, I also want to shout out Trevor Plouffe for predicting all the way back in March that the Braves would beat the Astros in 6 games in the World Series. I may have to go to him for my predictions from now on so I can get mine more on point going forward. So now on to the subject. Jorge Soler, the World Series MVP. We have seen the World Series MVP be someone who wasn't the best player on his team throughout the season on many occasions. Guys that weren't even all-stars that year. We can go through a whole list of those guys. It absolutely happens way more often in baseball than a role player winning Finals MVP in the NBA Finals. And Jorge Soler just added to that list of guys who were not all-stars during the regular season and won the World Series MVP. Before we go any further, if you want to consider hitting that like button, that'd be much appreciated. If you want to subscribe for more sports content if you're new, that'd be much appreciated as well. Also hit that notification bell. And also the links to my social media are in the description. I'll definitely follow you back if you follow me. So if you watched my last video on the Atlanta Braves when they reached the World Series, I'll leave a card up there. I'll put that video in the end screen, and I'll also leave a link in the description if you'd like to watch that if you haven't yet. You know that Jorge Soler wasn't doing very well at all before he came to the Braves this season, and that is why his numbers on the season are not actually a reflection of what he did for the Braves this year. He did seem like a one-year wonder before coming to the Braves, although does anyone remember him being on the 2016 Cubs? I don't blame you if you don't, because he was a bench player on that team, but regardless, he is a 2-time champion now. Before all that though, the beginning of his career, he defected from Cuba to pursue a major league career and established residence in Haiti. When he was a prospect, he was looked at as a potential 5-tool player, although he didn't turn out to be a good defensive outfielder, a high average hitter for a full season, or a threat to steal. He has shown he can hit for power though. After he was part of the Cubs team that broke the curse, he went to the Kansas City Royals, and in 2019, the year of the juiced baseballs, he had what looked like a breakout year for him at 27 years old, as he hit 48 home runs, the most in the American League and third in all of baseball behind Pete Alonso and Eugenio Suarez. He also led the American League in strikeouts, but hey, 48 home runs and 117 RBIs, he still raked like never before. I'm not sure how many people actually remember that though, because he was doing it for a small market team that wasn't winning a whole lot. He was looking like a late bloomer though, as he was leading the American League in home runs at 27 years old. But then came the 2020 season, where a bunch of guys underperformed in the 60-game season. He was no exception. He hit 8 home runs and 24 RBIs in 43 games. That's 30 home runs and 90 RBIs per 162 games, so that's not bad at all. However, he only hit .223 with a .316 on base percentage. His walk rate was about the same as the year before, but his K rate absolutely shot through the roof. His WRC plus was still a little bit above the league average of 100, perhaps because of his power numbers. He still wasn't great though at the plate, and it's not like his defense made up for his through the roof K rate. Despite regressing in 2020, the Royals still re-signed him to a 1-year deal worth $8.5 million. So then there's this year, as mentioned, he did horrible for the Royals. He didn't even hit 200 for them. But then he really turned his season around when he got traded to the Atlanta Braves. The .269 average that he put up with the Braves, sure, that may not really jump out at you, but again, it's not like he was ever a high average guy, and that definitely does not tell the whole story. I'm not saying batting average doesn't matter at all, but we do need context to go along with that. I did mention in that Braves video how he got hot towards the end of the season when he got put in the leadoff spot, which had a lot to do with the Braves winning 12 of their last 14 games. For a guy who never was a high average hitter, it sounds pretty unconventional to put a guy like him in the leadoff spot, right? Well, it definitely worked for the Braves. What I obviously didn't mention though in that video, because that video was before the World Series even started, he hit more home runs in the World Series than the Astros did as a team. Is that because he was that good or the Astros hit that poorly? It was both. He hit 3, the Astros as a team hit 2. Although his postseason got cut short due to COVID, he came back into that leadoff spot for the World Series, well, only for games 1 and 5 for the lefty of Framber Valdez, and he led off game 1 of the World Series with a home run. He only ever hit high as second in the lineup the rest of the series. That was in game 6, and that game he hit a home run in the 3rd inning to give the Braves a 3-0 lead that they wouldn't look back on. Austin Riley had the highest average for the Braves in the World Series. However, he didn't hit for any power and also struck out more than anyone else during that series. It's proof that batting average, while yes, it still does matter, it's also not an end-all be-all stat. Soler also had the highest on base and slugging percentage at 391 on base and 800 slugging, giving him an OPS of 1.191. About those 3 home runs that Soler hit, all 3 of them were go-ahead home runs. He also drove in 6 runs, tied with Adam Duvall for most on the team during the series. Duvall only hit 208 with a 240 on-base percentage in that series though, so clearly Soler was the no-brainer for World Series MVP. That OPS that I mentioned, it was by far the best out of anyone in that series. So now what to do with him? Re-sign him or let him walk? I'd say he's earned himself at least another year with the team. Of course, don't pay him like a superstar, but if you're a Braves fan, what do you think? I'd be glad to hear. Maybe this is good for his confidence, but it's not like every World Series MVP followed their success in the World Series in later seasons. Look no further than Steve Pearce. Hideki Matsui, one of my favorite players of all time. Alright, he was decent with the Angels the year after he was the Yankees World Series MVP, but fell off pretty hard after that. There's also Don Larson, rest in peace. He only had 1 game that made him a World Series MVP and someone that went down in history. There's definitely plenty of more guys that didn't follow up their success in the World Series. Also, Scott Brosius, after he won the World Series MVP in '98, his numbers definitely took a hit after that, and we could probably find plenty more of those guys. Soler is already 29 years old, so chances of him becoming that 5-tool player that he was projected to be as a prospect are pretty low at this point. He seems to just be what he is as a power hitter who strikes out a lot and doesn't play good defense, but this year he just happened to be someone that got hot at the right time and swung a hot bat in the World Series. Not that I want to take anything away from him though, because winning World Series MVP is obviously a pretty prestigious honor, but it's also factual that he's never been the most consistent player. Do you think the Braves will bring back Freddie Freeman? If they don't, well, this was quite a nice send-off for him, especially because nobody's debating whether or not that this championship was legitimate. Unlike last year, no one's calling this a Mickey Mouse ring. We know he's about to get paid and he deserves every bit of it. Once again, congrats Braves fans. Those who are actually from Georgia, I don't know how many fans they have outside of the state of Georgia. Perhaps they have some in Alabama. You're probably a Falcons fan too, right? Nice recovery from blowing a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. Also pretty cool to have a trade deadline acquisition who was doing horrible before his arrival in Atlanta be your World Series MVP, isn't it? Thank you so much for watching. Real quick, unfortunately I do not have time to actually make a video on this, so I'll just mention it real quick right here. Congrats Buster Posey on a great career. Do you think he's a Hall of Famer though? We can have that discussion too in the comments. That's one way I know you made it this far in the video. Without really thinking, I would say yes. Definitely when looking at his resume. However, when we look at Baseball Reference, that's what would tell us no, he's not. Whether he makes it or not though, he definitely had a very solid career. And I definitely applaud him for that. And I also definitely applaud him for choosing being a dad over baseball, something that obviously not a lot of people are able to do, especially when Buster Posey showed this year that he still has a lot left in the tank. Also, unfortunately, I will have to take a break from YouTube for a few days. Unless this video comes out much later than I would like it to, we do have a lot to talk about, particularly in football. There's also plenty to talk about in basketball, but right now, something's coming up that will stop me from making a video for the next few days, so hope you're able to bear with me on that. But if you made it this far and you still haven't liked the video yet, yes, I would really appreciate it if you can please consider doing that. And also if you can please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell, because more sports talk is about to come. Unfortunately, this month will be a little bit slow for me because I have something else important going on right now. Next month, though, is when it's really about to be a grind, though, so I hope you can stay tuned for that. So, made it this far. Thank you so much. Again, congrats, Braves fans. Thank you for beating the Astros, and I'll see you next time. Peace.